I love coffee, I love tea, I love the jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me.
Or to come up on that, say Ronkonkoma in let's say 10 years, because I don't think it happens quickly, does it?
No.
What would it look like?
It would look like a traditional downtown.
Okay.
It would most likely. I mean, I'm not. This is what I would envision it would look like. It would most likely have some sort of retail, restaurants
So
or
stores.
stores.
Well, it has almost. It has stores now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the convenience things.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I ask, I'm a teacher also at Longman High School, when I ask my students, what's at the Ronkonkoma train station, they can identify Dunkin' Donuts and,
Sure.
and their favorite whatever pizza
Yeah.
store or whatever.
But what also goes with that is this mix of uses, what you mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
is that you on the first floor you have retail,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a coffee shop, or a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
or a vintage clothing store, or something. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And then you have a couple stories, maybe 2 or 3 stories, depending upon what the community wants in terms of
Mm-hmm.
context and in terms of height,
Mm-hmm.
which could either be office space or
Mm-hmm.
residential.
Mhm.
And it creates a little
Mhm.
mini downtown around these trains. Historically, Long Island was developed like this.
Yes.
The original transit-oriented developments were the stops on the Long Island
Yes.
Railroad, and then it's only with the advent of the automobile after post-World War II that these sprawling development
Mhm.
patterns were
Mhm.
happened.
So some of the towns that were transit, the traditional transit-oriented development, that would be Sayville? is
You
it?
could look at in Nassau County. You could look at Mineola,
Okay.
Garden City.
Oh, yeah. Garden City is a good example.
Patchogue now is a great example
Patchwork, yeah,
of a
okay.
transit-oriented development. Huntington is more geared towards the harbor, which was interesting. It's not the train station is a little bit north of or south of the downtown, I believe, but it's geared more towards the harbor, which is another. When it was formed, it was a transit.
Yes.
So. Those are some traditional things,
Uh-huh.
and Ronkonkoma is with this plan would kind of would
Uh-huh.
create. Obviously, there's a dearth of affordable housing, a dearth of workforce housing on Long Island. It would create that. It would also create a new economic development base for the town, and also get people on modes of transportation.
Right.
It's kind of like you don't want to call anything a silver bullet, but it tackles a lot. It's a key cog to solving or mitigating a lot of the problems that Long Island is facing.
Uh-huh. And we're actually looking at a second TOD, or transit-oriented development, in Bellport, a smaller, would be smaller than the one they're planning for Ronkonkoma. But again, that committee just went through a visioning,
Sure.
and they were looking at the same thing, a little retail, maybe convenience shopping, with some housing surrounding the railroad station.
Exactly.
And one of the problems we have there is the trains only stop 2 times a day.
Mhm.
So obviously, it doesn't make it convenient for the train, for somebody to take the train from Bellport if they're only stopping there 2 times a day.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we hope to achieve, is an increase in the number of times the train
Yeah.
stop at Bellport.
And I think with a transit-oriented development, you instantaneously are creating ridership
Yes.
by having people live
Yes,
there.
you have your customer
and
base right there.
Creating
Yeah.
greater demand, which
Sure.
could lead to more
Uh-huh.
train
So,
stops.
one of the big problems for our community residents are concerning transportation is traffic
Mhm.
and congestion, which drives people crazy. So normally, the solution to congestion that DOT, or the Department of Transportation, state, or DPW from the county, or even the town of Brookhaven, if a roadway is congested, normally they suggest widening that
Mhm.
roadway. Can you speak to that as far as if that is a long-term solution to traffic congestion, and what are the problems that result from just widening a roadway to solve congestion?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. It's not a long-term solution to congestion. All it does is increase demand on development further and further away from these traditional downtowns or main streets that we have, which basically puts more cars on the road. So you're building further and further away from downtowns in areas that can only be accessible by automobile. And basically are putting more cars on the road, which creates more congestion, which creates more calls for widening the road, which creates more congestion. So
Right.
we call it the sprawl cycle.
Okay.
And it's just, it's not the roads that are causing the congestion, it's the actual development further and further away. So what we want to see with DOT, we've started to work very closely with Astrid Glynn, the new commissioner of the New York State DOT, and she has been very open to some of these ideas, and we've been working very closely to modify some of these outdated 20th century modes of kind of mitigating congestion, because they've proven not to work.
Right.
We've been widening roads since the late 50s, and we still have congestion on our roads.
Right.
So it's obviously something's not working. So we've been working with them to incorporate different uses, incorporate bike and pedestrian paths. But also the DOT needs to start working with towns and working with villages to really talk to them about their land uses. The DOT can't do anything about land use. It's all underneath the town and village level. So they have this pot of money, and they say, hey, we don't have enough money to widen your road because it's not a sustainable solution, but we can work with you to improve your land use decisions and create and grow smarter. And they need to be targeting those dollars into those municipalities and towns that do want to grow smarter and to solve their congestion problems.
Now, what would they target that money for?
I think that targeting would be visioning sessions to how to grow smarter, smart growth, mixed use uses downtowns, and basically trying to get the towns and municipalities to move away from this old type of zoning where it's just low density sprawling development, and to kind of do more mixed uses.
Yes, and we've been trying to do that on 25 through Coram and Middle Island and into Ridge. And that was from a visioning that occurred in 2002, and that takes a long time to implement. Exactly. Obviously, from the visioning, a land use plan is developed, and then a generic environmental impact statement and so forth, and then you have to have the developers come in with their plans, and they have to have environmental studies. What we had done along 25 to reduce that sprawl impact was upzone many parcels, over 1,000 acres of property along 25, and then planned for 2 hubs at the crossroads of 112 and County Road 21. So we're still trying to move that forward. It is not an easy lift, unfortunately. One would think that good planning would go smoothly through the process. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Yeah. But that is really what we need, and we have been seeing more cooperation from the Department of Transportation.
And I think it's important to recognize that this is an idea that it's not a radical idea anymore. Particularly Long Island, the Rauch Foundation did a Long Island index that showed that young people and retirees want these walkable communities where they don't have to rely on a car. It's not a hard. It is still kind of a lift to kind of get through the entrenched ideas, but people want this. People are starting to demand this type of stuff. And I mean, that's one of the reasons. I originally grew up in Northport, and
nice town.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a nice town. But when I came back from college, or I was in the Peace Corps, and when I came back from the Peace Corps, I moved into the city because I wanted walkable, transit-oriented developments, and unfortunately Long Island couldn't offer that to me. Not to mention I couldn't afford a single-family home.
Yes.
No. That was a key aspect as well. But really, this idea of like a livable streets or walkable streets and being able to bike safely to and from different places.
Pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga Choo-Choo?
Yes, yes, track 29.
Boy, you can give me a shine.